Missions Pulse. Know God's heart, join His mission.
There is a statement that I missed intentionally, and that is, it says, eat whatever is offered.
This is one thing I knew you were going to get to, and I'm glad you did, because this is a stumbling block for many of those who've crossed cultures, arrive at the table only to have something plopped in front of you that you're not quite familiar with, and then...
Yes, because Jesus repeats it. So it is the only instruction that is repeated. Because in verse 8, he says, eat whatever is offered you. So this is the only instruction that is repeated twice. So here is the importance. And I call it go servantly.
Okay.
When you are a servant, that means the person who offers the food is your master. So you surrender your rights, even as a human being, to choose what to eat and where to sleep. Okay?
Well, there's a strong description. That's a strong description of the new paradigm of the missionary.
But if you follow this, you are 100% going to be welcomed, not just by this person of peace, but as he now gossips to his village people. This guy who came and told me about this Jesus is a genuine guy.
Yeah, and he even eats balut, or whatever they said before you.
He accepts our culture.
That's what it is, yes.
Because that's how God should appear. God comes to accept your culture. He preserved that culture, because without that culture, they would have not survived. That civilization would have died. But the fact that they're still alive, there's something good.
There's some intrinsic
Good things
value,
are happening.
yes.
The mother loves her children. They raise their children and feed them. The father worked hard enough to see to it that even he has to do hunting of animals just to feed this family. So even if it's a tribal situation. So this is the lesson. In a squatter area, among the urban poor, they have money even to go and gamble in the lotto. Okay, they have money to go and drink wine until they're drunk. So there is money even in a squatters community. So don't come in saying they need cash. No, they have cash.
Yeah. Wow. Did you just say that, or did you think it?
Oh, yeah. So,
and you don't regret it.
As I said a while ago, no community that exists is really poor.
You're pointing to that intrinsic value of each culture, and to appreciate that culture by eating what is set before you.
And if you don't believe me, just go to any community development class, how to become an expert community development worker and a social worker. The instructions of any even secular social scientist is to tell you, don't go in rich.
Yeah.
But of course, later on, the resources will have to come. But even then, whatever project, whatever good has to happen in the community, let them use their local resources first. You don't bring in outside resources.
Yeah.
And that's how to think sustainability, but most important, maintain their dignity so that they don't become dependent on foreign cash or donations.
Yes.
But they can continue to live, but this time more blessed, more generous, because the sharing that they have already in their community will now be in the name of Jesus and for the sake of His kingdom.
Yeah.
And so that whole thing will change. And this is where my third point is to go servantly. Treat the community as your master. God sent you to this rich harvest field, and you are to serve them as a harvester. And as a harvester, you don't go in as the master. You go in as a guest, as a servant. And as Paul would say, in order to win people for Jesus, he says, I become all things to all men. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 19, he precedes that by saying in verse 19, in order to win people for Jesus, I make myself a slave, a doulos. Exactly the same word that was described in Jesus in one of the first hymns of the New Testament, Philippians chapter 2. Although he was God, he did not count equality with God, but emptied himself. That means he emptied himself of being a God, then became a perfect 100% human being, even in the form of a servant, of a slave.
Yes, wow.
Doulos. So this word doulos is a bond slave language. and that you surrender your rights and say, I come to this culture and I'm willing to see God working through this culture and even their religious practices. And this is where it becomes a very key issue also when it comes now to how now do you disciple your disciple, because the next trick now for multiplication is what do you do with this first convert and first disciple that you have.
So before you get to that, when you just mentioned that, we've seen this take place in missions history. You remind me, talking about this bond slave, this servant's attitude of the first two Moravian missionaries.
Exactly.
Zinzendorf has this desire. There's a call now from the West Indies. People are saying, we've never heard of this message in this purest form. Please send more people. And they're warned. Now, if you go as the Moravians, as you Germans and other Scandinavians to this place, they will never have the time. They are working in the fields. They cannot listen to the message of the only way for them to hear the gospel is if you sell yourself into slavery. Suddenly, David, I can't recall his last name off the top of my head, right. And Doberman was the last one. The first two missionaries of the Moravian movement.
German.
Yes. Were willing to sell themselves into slavery so that the West Indies might be saved. And this is an example we must emulate.
The most dramatic example.
And then I recall reading their story as the boat set sail from Copenhagen toward the West Indies, and people are crying, weeping on the shore as the boat sets sail, and the distance between them grows larger, and suddenly they break. I get emotional just thinking about this. They break into song and shouting back from the boat. They say, may the lamb that was slain receive the glory for which he suffered. And wow, powerful imagery of a servant, of a slave going for the sake of salvation.
And talking about effectivity, they truly shook the Caribbean.
That's right. And I think within, is it 2 or 4 years, I believe there were marked 7,000 people who had been baptized through their witness. That servant-heartedness truly transforms. That is messianic. That is the Jesus kind of missionary we need today.
Missions Pulse. Know God's heart, join his mission. This podcast is powered by Within Reach Global. Subscribe, watch, and listen on YouTube today. Visit missionspulse.com.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought. Also, you might want to check out this video here, and honestly, that one's not bad either. Make sure you subscribe to Missions Pulse by clicking the subscribe button right here, and also click that little bell button so you get notified every single time we post a new video.